in terms of the strike to the Iranian school where kids were killed? Do you have that number in terms of the missiles we used?
As I've said, that unfortunate situation remains under investigation.
You don't know how much it costs the taxpayer?
But I wouldn't tie a cost to that, to anything.
It's $631 billion, which means it's an increase of $5,000 a year for American households. Now, here's what it costs. You got to pay for it. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your $25 billion number is totally off.
As a gentleman from California, Mr. Khanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Hegseth, tomorrow is 2 months since the war has begun. You've testified that it was $25 billion in cost in terms of the munitions we used and what we paid for it. But when you add to that the damage that was done to our bases and today's dollars for buying replacement munitions and replacement aircrafts, what has the total cost been over the last 60 days?
That number right now reflects the total cost that we're seeing.
Including buying in today's dollars the new weapons and replacements, and including the damage there? That's your testimony?
If there's adjustments to that, I would defer to the comptroller on that.
And how much are you seeing in terms of, are you asking in terms of supplemental funding just for the Iran mission from this committee?
If and when a supplemental is submitted, the majority of it would not just be for, would not be for
what would be the ballpark for Iran?
Munitions related to the entirety
Just
of what
number,
we want to
sir.
get done.
A number, what would you submit? What
it would be within the, on Iran, it would be less than $25 billion, but there's a lot more we would ask for beyond just Iran.
You're saying it's $25 billion. Okay, I would just, if you come back, you want to revise those numbers, because all the experts are disagreeing with you when it comes to today's dollars and damage, but you can revise it. How much did it cost American taxpayers in terms of the strike to the Iranian school where kids were killed? Do you have that number in terms of the missiles we used?
This is where the pressure really starts to build. Up to this point, the exchange is about numbers, costs, estimates, projections. But now it shifts into something far more uncomfortable: accountability. When asked about the cost tied to a specific controversial strike involving civilian casualties, the answer immediately retreats into under investigation. That's a standard response, but politically, it creates a vacuum. Because the question isn't just about dollars, it's about responsibility. And when there's no clear number, no clarity, it raises a bigger question for viewers. Is this uncertainty unavoidable, or is it being used to avoid scrutiny?
As I've said, that unfortunate situation remains under investigation.
You don't know how much it costs the taxpayer?
But I wouldn't tie a cost to that, to anything.
It's a reasonable question, no, sir? I mean, our taxpayer money was going there. Do you know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm going to give you that opportunity.
I would simply ask you what the... you're playing gotcha questions about
no,
domestic things. I'm not...
You're saying it's a gotcha question to ask what it's going to be in terms of the increased cost of gas.
Why won't you answer what it costs to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb?
I give you that, sir, but let me...
What would it cost? What would you pay to ensure Iran doesn't get a nuclear bomb? What would you pay?
I reclaim my time. Do you not know? You had no one do the analysis of what the increased cost of gas and food on the American people are going to be?
What is the cost of Iran holding that straight at issue with nuclear weapons?
It's $631 billion, which means it's an increase of $5,000 a year for American households. Now, let me give you this point. You're saying that your operation is preventing a nuclear Iran. Will you acknowledge that there is an economic cost to the American people for doing what you believe is necessary to make Iran denuclear? Will you acknowledge the economic cost?
We have an incredible economic team that's managing this better than what the previous administration did to our economy, what the previous administration did with inflation, what the previous administration did with COVID, and you're going to lecture this administration about the economy?
You know what is upsetting?
Incredible.
You didn't even do the analysis on how much it's costing the American people. It's one thing if you said, okay, it costs the American people $5,000, but we think it's worth it. That's what we've done in World War II and other wars. Here's what it costs. You got to pay for it. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your $25 billion number is totally off. It's the incompetence. It's the incompetence. Let me ask you this. Certainly, maybe here we'll find agreement. There were still 440 pounds of low-enriched uranium, correct, when President Obama, after the JCPOA? Is that accurate?
The amounts and types are classified.
Okay. Will you acknowledge that there were 970 pounds of uranium enriched after Trump tore up the JCPOA?
The JCPOA was a terrible deal that allowed Iran a path to a nuclear bomb.
You deal with vague platitudes. I'm asking you about numbers. Like, you don't know what gas costs, you don't know what food costs, you don't know what the operation costs. You know, I get sound bites, but how about numbers? Do you know how much the enriched uranium was after you ripped up the JCPOA? Trump did.
I'll give you a number. I know that, as was stated by early on, the price of gas is twice as expensive in California, your home state, as anywhere else in the country because of the horrible policies your state pursued.
You know what? It used to be that type of stuff worked, and then you started to lose the people that you campaigned you wanted to be for, because you said you wouldn't get us into bad wars. You said you would bring down the prices. You know what I'm sad for? I'm sad for all the people who voted for Trump. I'm sad for them because you betrayed them. You betrayed a lot of that MAGA base. And you know who knows that? J.D. Vance knows that.
Gentleman's time's expired.
He's
Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Nebraska, Mr. Bacon.
What you just watched is a classic collision between two completely different ways of framing a war. And neither side fully meets the other where the real tension lies. On one side, you have a line of questioning that is relentlessly focused on numbers, accountability, and real-world consequences. Not abstract strategy, not long-term geopolitical theory, but immediate, measurable impact. What did it cost? Not just in weapons, but in damage. Not just in military terms, but in human terms. Not just overseas, but here at home. Gas prices, food prices, household impact. And that's where the pressure becomes most revealing. Because again and again, when those specific grounded questions are asked, the answers drift. They move from concrete figures into broader justifications. From how much did it cost to what's the cost of doing nothing? That shift is not accidental. It's strategic. It reframes the debate from accountability to necessity. But here's the problem. Both questions matter. And when one consistently replaces the other, viewers start to notice the gap. The most striking moment isn't just the lack of a number. It's the pattern. The inability or unwillingness to quantify the economic burden on ordinary people. The deflection when asked about the cost of a specific strike. The pivot to past administrations when pressed on present accountability. These aren't isolated moments. They build a narrative. And that narrative is exactly what the questioner leans into at the end. Not just disagreement, but betrayal. That's a powerful political escalation. Because now this isn't just about policy, it's about trust. About promises made versus outcomes delivered. At the same time, there's another layer here that shouldn't be ignored. The counterargument, what is the cost of allowing a nuclear threat to emerge, is not trivial. It's a serious question. But in this exchange, it's used more as a shield than a direct answer. And that's where the tension peaks, when justification replaces explanation. So what are viewers left with? A debate where one side is demanding precision and the other is offering justification. A hearing where numbers are asked for, but narratives are given instead. In a moment where the gap between policy decisions and public impact feels unresolved. That's the real takeaway here. Not just who won the exchange, but what was actually clarified and what still wasn't. Because in the end, the question isn't just whether the policy is right or wrong. It's whether the people making these decisions can clearly explain the cost, both abroad and at home. What do you think? Should leaders be expected to provide exact economic impacts in moments like this? Or is that unrealistic in the middle of a conflict? If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like the video, share it with others who are following this issue, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more sharp, no-nonsense political analysis.